Okay, I have a little introduction to do first, if that's all right.
Sure.
And it's just some things I wanted to say about Elaine and about the play. And I'm Ann Havlick. I'm the co-president of the League of Women Voters for San Luis Obispo County. And Elaine Bromka, she's an award-winning actress and co-author and star of this play. And her acting experience is incredibly impressive and a wide range. Broadway, off-Broadway, regional theater, television, movies, and then and a soap opera. You had a soap opera role for a while, and you won an Emmy in a made-for-TV movie. And then she played 8 of the first ladies in a program put on by the BBC called The Presidents, and Rich Little was the 8 presidents. So I just think that is so fun to know. And then, I also read that you were on Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which is just really sweet. And I want to thank you for being here with us today while we're celebrating Women's History Month in a just very informative and enjoyable way. And a special thank you to our longtime member and longtime board member, Eleanor Kogan, who sponsored this program for our membership. And we are so grateful, Eleanor, if you're out there.
Thank you.
I wanted to do a few quotes because Elaine is talking about, presenting these first ladies as real people and giving you some insight into their personalities. So I found quotes from each of them that I just kind of want to read. Lady Bird Johnson, the quote, "The First Lady is and always has been an unpaid public servant elected by one person, her husband." The second one is Pat Nixon, who said, quote, "Being the First Lady is the hardest unpaid job in the world." And then the third one from Betty Ford, "I don't feel that because I'm First Lady, I'm very different from what I was before. It can happen to anyone. After all, it has happened to anyone." But then not a lady that you're portrayed, but my favorite quotation while I was looking things up, Eleanor Roosevelt. "A woman is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water."
Hot water, that's great.
I love that one. So Elaine, thank you for joining us. And we have some questions for you. And I think I'm going to ask the first question. And you've been asked this many times. You played 8 first ladies. How did you pick the 3 for your play?
Well, that was a circuitous route. First of all, I wasn't even going to audition for the play called The Presidents to do the 8 first ladies because I had never thought of the subject. I didn't know what they sounded like. And I thought, I was afraid of failing. And it got to be about 48 hours before the audition. And I went to the Museum of Television and Radio in New York and crammed and then got it. And then once I was doing it, Rich Little was hilarious. But my daughter was 12 at the time. And she said, "Mom, I would rather have you home washing dishes than standing there going, 'What a wonderful speech, darling.'" She said, "Write your own play." She said, "I want to know what the women are thinking." And I went, and I dragged my feet for a long time. And then I had a friend who had a theater in New Jersey, and he said, "I have a solo festival coming up. Why don't you do a solo piece?" And I still thought 8 first ladies, that's a hat trick. I don't want to do that. But I knew I wanted to zero in, but I didn't know how. So I dragged my feet for another year. And my friend said, "Okay, that's it. I'm putting you together with a playwright. I'm putting you together with Eric H. Weinberger." And I was very threatened because I thought, I don't want someone to take my idea, but I didn't know what my idea was. So he put me together with Eric, who was sublime. And it made me realize that collaboration with the right person is phenomenal. He was the one who chose those three first ladies because they were lesser known. They were of an age where I could play them for a while. They were in times, the 60s and 70s, that changed dramatically as far as how we regard women. It's still changing and it still isn't there. But that's how we landed on those three. And he taught me such an important thing about writing, because I had written seriously, back when I was 18, and then I let it go. And then I became paralyzed about writing, because I thought, right, if I write something, it has to be fantastic. And he taught me, no, you have to start, you have to dare to put it on paper or on your computer and let it be horrible, and then start to sculpt. And that was a huge, huge realization, that it doesn't spring forth. You put something there so that you can work with it. He overwrote like mad. And I would say, yeah, I don't think we need this. I was a better editor. And he also wrote a whole lot for Pat Nixon. And then as an actor, I looked at it and I said, I hear more silence with her. I hear more the things she's not saying. And that's how we came to that. But that couldn't have happened without his laying the groundwork. So I'm so appreciative of the writing curve now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And another question, the play alluded to being in the shadow of other women. Was that something you've thought about or noticed?
That these women, well, certainly Lady Bird was in the shadow of Jackie.
Yeah.
I mean, she said, know that people will always wish they were seeing them, always.
Yes.
I mean, yikes, who needs it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is someone who says, I always felt like Lady Bird was very reserved. Your portrayal suggests she may have been more chatty and outgoing. On what did you base your characterization of these?
They said when she, hung out at the ranch with Lyndon and had visitors, she was pretty darn jovial, but she was very cautious politically. We read her entire 800-page diary, and at the end, Eric said, so what did she really think? Because she was so careful.
Yeah.
She never wanted to say anything negative.
I sent you an article about a woman who just wrote a biography of Lady Bird and had been doing research and heard recordings of her in the Johnson Library. And there was an article in the Washington Post where they were saying from the first day when Kennedy was assassinated, she kept a audio diary,
Wow.
which she did through the whole time she was First Lady. Were you able to read that article at all? It was fascinating.
Yeah. Now I want to hear what she wrote, but it's such a smart idea too, because then you're not finessing things and you're not saying, am I saying this beautifully enough? You're getting to the core. You're just trying to remember what happened. That's such a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I think she felt like she was living in a very significant time through very challenging, unusual circumstances.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
what also came across in the article for me was how much more influential and stronger a woman she was than what we thought.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's that famous thing where he gives a speech and then she called him afterwards and she said, remember drama and pacing. And she said, you look like a reliable guy, but if I may say a few things, and then she went on to say those things. And he needed her. All those guys needed the women.
Yeah, lonely. I mean, in a lot of ways, lonely being a politician, because
Very
you
lonely.
don't know who your real friends are and who's going to stab you in the back.
Yeah. And interesting to me that two of those three men on the first date or even on the first meeting said, I'm going to marry you. Let's get married. You're going, what? Yeah. But I think it's a politician's mind where you think, yeah, okay, this will work. let's put that in place so I can move on and do other things. So romantic.
Yeah. What the other thing that interested me watching your play, realizing that those first ladies a lot of their marriages early on spent many years just by themselves. You know, that Nixon was gone a lot.
Ford was gone a lot.
Gerald Ford all the time.
I mean, she really saw him more when he was in the White House. And actually, the Obamas said the same thing, that they had dinner every night together because they were suddenly in the same house.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Then did you find any of the first ladies harder to portray than others?
Pat was very hard to find material on because she truly never opened her mouth. And I don't know if there are any librarians in the audience, but if there are, and you, librarians are amazing. I went to my local librarian and I said, I just can't find any audio. I wanted to see clippings. I wanted to hear audio. And we got something from the Library of Congress that showed her after Nixon had lost the gubernatorial race in California and they had moved to California, and the reporters were right in her face saying, how do you feel now that, don't you miss California? And she said, oh, well, I always say it's just a plane ride away. And she bent her knees. And I thought, that's my character right there. Because it was as though she was saying, oh, please go away, very politely,
Yeah.
you know? And that really was the core of her for me.
Yeah,
and when I was listening to recordings of Ladybird, I heard that she talked in scallops. And I thought, why would you talk in scallops? And I got this image of a mother hen taking care of him. It's funny, the things that give you the hook for the character. And Betty had all that pain, so she was sort of compressed here, but she was so radiant in the face. I had this feeling she was looking up into the sun all the time.
Do you think that Rich Little did with portraying the presidents, that he got a hook for each one?
I know he did. I was having dinner with him while we were rehearsing, and I saw him. He was sitting at the dinner table and he was looking at his hand. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, Reagan, this is Reagan, like a bear paw. He keeps his thumb far away from his hand. And I thought, wow, that really was my inspiration. If you find the energy center in the body, or some tell like that, it gives you the character.
Here's like it's 3 questions here. Did you learn anything surprising in your research for this? And after your research and working with this production, what is your take on our political system?
I tried. That's a very good question. I try to stay resolutely apolitical, but it's a sorry time when people are at one another and when people are divided. It just doesn't work. Doesn't work when someone's the enemy. But to back up from that, I was shocked in doing the research on the 8 First Ladies, from Jackie Kennedy up to Laura Bush. 5 of the 8 of them lost a parent or 2 as a child. 5 of the 8. That's extraordinary to me. And what I took away from it is that as a child, you think, okay, I'm on my own. That's what life is. And I think that suits the loneliness of the First Lady position. You know, you suck it up and you think, well, you know, I have to take care of this myself. But 5 of the 8, that's amazing, isn't it? And in the 3 here, you know, that Lady Bird lost her mother when she was 5. Pat lost her mother and her father by the time she was 17. Betty lost her father at 16. That's crazy.
Yeah. Do you know whatever happened to Billy, who was the Secret Service for Pat?
No. In fact, we may now see some of these things blur in my mind. I think we invented him. because as a specific person, but she was very close to her Secret Service guys because she traveled to 80 countries. That's a lot of travel, especially in her time.
Yeah.
And we really created him so that someplace she could be comfortable and feel safe. Someplace we could see the warmer side of her. And I think she was living vicariously. You know, she wanted them to dance. She wanted them to have flowers. Because it's true, when Nixon became vice president, he decided that dancing was inappropriate. That's the end of that.
Do you plan to do a version where you portray Nancy Reagan, Laura Bush, and Hillary Clinton?
You know, at one point, we thought of going backwards, and we started doing research, Eric and I, and he started doing some writing on Harding, Wilson, and Coolidge. And we had a talk back after Tea for Three, and we said, okay, if we go back to these three, do you find that you would care? And they went, no. So we said, okay, you saved us a lot of time. It can be a little tricky with Reagan and Laura Bush, and they both did some very interesting things. It's hard to portray someone who's had facial work because the emotions don't show the same way. So it doesn't mean you can't do the people, but it's harder to get inside their minds because it's harder to read the signals.
Interesting observation. Very interesting. Do you know if any subsequent first ladies have seen your performance and have any comments?
I don't think any of the first ladies did. Sheila Weidenfeld, the press secretary of Betty Ford, saw it, and Ron Nessen, the press secretary of Gerald Ford, and we spoke to Lucy Baines Johnson to ask her a question. Specifically, we wanted to know if that was Lyndon's decision not to run again, or if Lady Bird affected him. And then she said, no. She asked her mother, and Lady Bird said that was his decision. We didn't even know when he started the speech if he was going to go ahead with that. And I was so grateful, and Eric was too, that he sent Lady Bird some wildflower soaps. And we got the sweetest note back saying, I thank you for the wildflower soaps. They are gracing my guest bathroom. I thought that was so Lady Bird. And I also spoke to a lovely lady in Austin, Texas, who had worked at the Johnson Presidential Museum for quite a while they were there in those early years. And after we spoke for about an hour, she said, wait, I have something for you. And she left the room and she came back with this. It's Lady Bird's sweater.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that cool? It's that scratchy mohair that you can't possibly put against your skin.
Yeah.
But I felt honored to have it, so I keep it in a very safe place.
And you get an idea of how big she was, or how tiny she was.
Little. She was pretty little, if that fit her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and short-waisted.
Yeah, I've been to the Smithsonian where they have all the gowns from the inaugural balls, and it's very surprising to see how big they were, or how small they were. A lot of them were really tiny.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what's next for you, Elaine?
Well, during this pandemic time, it's very hard to say. I had several bookings of the show and it all collapsed as of March. So I've put it out virtually to 20 groups now since then. 10 just this month. So that's really kept me intellectually engaged. And I also do a lot of guest teaching. I just was teaching earlier today virtually for Lewis and Clark College in Portland. So I taught at 150 colleges and high schools now. And I love that. It's really fun. Yeah. So that's cool.
Let's see if we have any more questions here.
I have to tell you, that little squirt daughter who told me to go write my own play went on to be a writer, and she wrote a play, a mystery novel set beyond Siberia. It's Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. And in 2019, it came out, and the New York Times said it was one of the 10 best books of the year. And it turned out to be one of the 5 finalists for the National Book Award. So she knew what she was talking about.
I have seen that book in the New York Times book review.
Yeah, well, you must read it. It's really good. And all the women, I mean, all the characters, just about are women. All the main characters are women. She was doing a talk back, and someone said, well, why are so many of the characters women? She said, yeah. You have a problem with that?
Oh, let's see if we have any more questions. How do you think that the second lady's experience differs from that of the second gentleman?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to find out. It's going to be very interesting to find out. It's a fascinating time now.
Yeah.
I think it'll bring more attention to the position, and he'll have a lot to go through, but I think the position itself will become more prominent because there's a second gentleman. On the other hand, he also seems very cool about it, and that's a wise move.
Yeah. And he has his own career,
Exactly.
Long time career.
Well, I read Becoming. It was fantastic, but Michelle Obama had her own career, and suddenly, yeah, it's a huge thing to give up, to have to play politics suddenly.
Do you think the American expectations will differ when the second spouse is a male?
Yes, I do. I do. And we'll see how it goes. I also, frankly, would still love to know Melania's story. I hope it comes out at some time, because she was the one who just said, I'm out of here. I'm not playing this game. And there's a part of me that thinks, you go, girl. I get it. So I hope we'll find out in time more about what was entailed in that. But it's very hard to step back from national expectations.
Yeah. Well, I could be wrong, but she looks like she's had facial work done or plastic
Oh,
surgery.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't she be hard to read anyway, from your
Yeah.
perspective?
Yeah. Well, even before, when people said, have you thought about doing Michelle Obama? I said, not until I do a lot more push-ups. Because her arms are fantastic.
Oh, she's great.
She's great. She's really great.
So
I think deep down, people just want to be able to see the humanity in those leaders, those women.
I had a question about could we access this through a video presentation, streaming like Prime or Netflix or YouTube?
No, it's not available that way, but I love to pick the brains of smart women. If you know other groups in the area, or even in other states, if you have a friend in another state, and if their group were interested in presenting it the way it was presented here, then that person could give you a link, and you could join in for that evening. But so far, I've only put it out to groups, just because it's harder to control once people can watch it at any time, and intellectual property becomes a very big issue.
So we have a few other.
Well, no, I was just thinking at one point, because it's published now as well, and it was my idea that community theaters could do it with 3 women, different actresses for each role, and each one would have far less to learn, and it would be a lovely sorority to be part of. And that has happened. About, I don't know, 20 groups have done it around the country. One woman was doing it for libraries in Illinois. And I thought, oh, that's nice. And then I happened to Google, I got it on a Google alert, T for 3, and I thought, oh, what's happening? Turns out she had released it to the library, and they just posted it on YouTube. It had been there for almost 5 months. And I thought, oh my gosh, that we can't have that. Can't have that kind of thing.
Yeah. Have you considered a place like the Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon, where they don't.
I called them a few times. If you have any clout with them, let me know. You know, I also no, I continue to pitch all over the place. Women's groups are a clear audience, but I'm starting to reach out to theaters, because even if they're producing theaters as opposed to presenting theaters, in other words, if they're used to rehearsing and casting their own shows, this is such an odd time that they may well want a fill-in production. So I'm reaching out to those theaters as well. You just never know where it's going to land. So anyone who has any ideas, please email elainebromka@gmail.com, or just go to elainebromka.com or t43.com. That'll take you there too.
So I just want to read 2 comments. They're not questions, or comments.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for this is a comment by one of our members. Thank you so much for your performance. It made these ladies so much more personal and human. Thank you. You were wonderful. I could lose myself in each lady.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And the second one, this was a great afternoon. So fun and informative. Wonderful to see this picture of these first ladies. And then a comment from somebody who put down that our local regional theater is doing online productions, and it's the Pcpa.
What does Pcpa stand for?
Pacific Conservatory of the Performing Arts.
And
okay.
they do productions out of Solvang. Isn't that right? Am I getting the right one? Solvang.
Yeah, they do it in the open air in Solvang, and they do it at the Marion Theater at Hancock College.
Yeah.
It's a resident professional company that does teaching. And so as a young person, you would apply to the program for a degree in theater. And you go and work with card-carrying members of the Actors Guild, and they understudy all the roles and have other parts. There are usually at least 4 principals in each presentation, but since we're doing it, I'm saying we, I'm sorry, I was the dean over that area.
Oh, all right. We're leaning on you here to spread the word.
But what they are doing currently is smaller presentations that are amenable to the Zoom environment.
Right.
So they're doing things or stage readings and things like that.
Yeah.
Mark Boer is the artistic director.
Who's the artistic director?
The artistic director is Mark Boer, B-O-O-H-E-R. Okay.
Well, I'll reach out. I'm a demon reacher outer.
Well, are there any more questions? I'm just looking around.
And I would love it if people, if they didn't have a chance to finish the show, go ahead and finish it. I would ask them not share it with others for the same reason, just because, I have to know where it's going.
Right. So I guess that's it. Elaine, thank you so much. It's such a interesting, great production, and you're just delightful to work with. Talk to you. It's been wonderful.
You are too. I thank you so much, and it's really a pleasure for me to be able to share it with people who care about those women and are ready to find out about them. I want to honor them, and I want to honor Eric, whom we lost a few years ago. And I bring this up just because when I first met him, I thought, this guy's awfully nice. What's really going on? I found out, yeah, there is something behind the nice. It's holiness. He's holy. And that's where the air's rare. And I think the humanity in the play is a direct blossoming of his humanity. So I want to keep taking this show all over.
Well, this has just been lovely. Thank you
Well,
so much.
Thank you, everyone. And be sure to read Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. She's going to say, Mom, why are you putting ads in your own thing? But that's what mothers do.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank
thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
For
I hope
sure.
you enjoy the rest of your weekend. So,
All right. Bye-bye.
bye.